bakery, the Golden Spoon, was my entire world. It smelled of cinnamon and pumpkin, with the warm, yeasty scent of rising bread always lingering in the air. Fall was my favorite season, a time when the village of Amber Creek truly came alive. The old oak trees in the town square wore their brightest amber and crimson leaves, and the air was so crisp you could almost taste it. I shared this little slice of heaven with my partner in flower-covered crime, Milo, a golden labrador with a heart as big as his paws. He was a terrible guard dog, but a brilliant greeter. His tail, a constant metronome of joy, would wag a welcome to every customer who walked through our front door. Milo had a talent for sniffing out trouble, or more accurately, sniffing out pastries. My biggest challenge each morning was keeping the fresh-baked cinnamon rolls out of his reach. He would sit by the counter with his big brown eyes, his tail thumping a hopeful rhythm against the floor. One particular Tuesday, a quiet, older man with a kind smile and a leather satchel sat at a small table near the window. He ordered a cup of tea and a scone, but he seemed to be watching something outside. When he left, he didn't take his satchel. Thinking it was an honest mistake, I went to grab it, but a small, heavy book slipped out and fell open on the floor. It was a recipe book, old and well-loved, filled with pages that smelled faintly of spices and rain. As I picked it up, a loose piece of paper, folded into a tiny square, fell into my hand. It read, "The recipe for the lost orchard pie lies where the sun sets on the first day of the pumpkin festival." My heart skipped a beat. This was not a normal recipe book. This was a mystery. Milo, ever curious, nudged the book with his nose and let out a soft whine, as if urging me on. The next day, the village was buzzing with excitement for the annual pumpkin festival. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, I left the bakery in my assistant's hands, and with Milo excitedly leading the way, walked to the far end of the pumpkin patch. There, just as the last golden light faded, a single, glowing pumpkin stood apart from the rest. Carved into its side was a small, ornate compass. This pumpkin wasn't just a decoration. It was the next clue. Milo and I followed the compass to the old mill at the edge of the creek, where another note led us to the next village fair. The journey turned into a beautiful, unfolding adventure. The book's riddles led us on moonlit walks through the amber-colored woods, to conversations with old Mr. Henderson, who ran the local cider press, and to Mrs. Gable, the town historian, who knew every story the old stone buildings held. I learned about my town's forgotten past, a secret society of bakers who, centuries ago, had hidden away their most cherished recipes to protect them from a rival village. Each riddle led me to a new person and a new story. Mr. Henderson told me about a legendary apple tree that only bloomed in the fall, while Mrs. Gable shared tales of the old community spirit that had once held the village together. I wasn't just solving a mystery. I was rediscovering my home. I found myself chasing dreams I never knew I had. My small shop felt bigger, no longer just a place to bake, but a hub for stories and connections. On the final day, the last riddle led me back to my own bakery. The clue read, "The true recipe is found where it all began." The book instructed me to combine the ingredients from all the recipes I had collected along the way. A rare autumn apple from Mr. Henderson's story, a handful of flour from the old mill, and a dash of spice from a secret blend shared by Mrs. Gable. I carefully mixed everything together. Nothing magical happened. The batter just sat in the bowl, smelling of apples and cinnamon. My heart sank. Had I misread everything? Just then, the bakery door opened, and a flood of my neighbors rushed in, all carrying pieces of what I now knew were the missing ingredients. Mr. Henderson held a bag of his special flour, Mrs. Gable had a jar of spice, and my assistant held a small, perfect golden apple. The mysterious man from the start of the story stood in the back, smiling. It was all a village-wide scavenger hunt, a grand game to welcome me into their community. As the scents of the oven filled the air, I finally understood. The real recipe wasn't a formula for baking. It was a recipe for community, a recipe for happiness, a mixture of shared stories, heartfelt connections, and the comfort of home. Through it all, Milo sat by the counter, tail thumping, a happy companion who had been a part of the adventure from the very first scent of cinnamon and the very first wag of his tail.